Well, I did not go. I must say that I didn't go to university. I went to a specialist advanced teachers training college, which has today been upgraded to University of Education, Winneba. But it had almost the same status as a university. Our campus was the one time called the Kwame Nkrumah Ideological Institute. Wonderful buildings, wonderful infrastructure. It was excellent. The food was good. We had the teachers. Everything was fine. And when I was at Advanced Teachers Training College, I was chairman of the Specialist Institutions Student Government Council. And by that position, I became the national vice president of NUCS, National Union of Ghana Students. At that time, our president was Akrofi. Ndebugri was the general secretary of NUCS from Tech. Kankam de Costa was NUCS president at the University of Science and University of Cape Coast. And then we had Chambers, who is now Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations. He was NUCS representative at University of Ghana. So our group came together and we struggled with Achampong and others. We had demonstrations and so on. Hardly did we know that years to come we will all be in responsible positions. I became a member of parliament and they became a lawyer and a minister under Rawlings, and eventually became a member of parliament for Zebula. Chambers became a member of parliament, a minister under Rawlings, and now he's with the United Nations. Kankam de Costa became a minister for Central Region, and unfortunately he's passed away. But people of our cohort, who were in higher educational institutions, be it university or diploma institutions such as mine, we were very privileged because the institutions were well funded at that time. They were very well funded compared to now. And I must say that I never got a first degree. I had a diploma, and then after my diploma, when the coup came, I applied and I went straight to do a master's degree in public administration. And then after my master's in public administration, I was admitted to do the doctoral degree in political science. So I count myself as one of people who are fortunate, who have used my living experience as part of my credentials to undertake graduate studies. And I think I'm very competitive with my colleagues. Achampong, as a matter of probity, seized power from Prime Minister Bushia. At that time, Edward Akufo-Addo was the president. That is the father of the current president. He was the ceremonial president. And the head of government was Bushia. Achampong and his cohort under the NRC, National Redemption Council, felt that Bushia was not doing enough. And they came to correct the situation. As every coup would always have it, there were people who did not like Bushia, and they jumped to the bandwagon and supported Achampong in the early days of his revolution. If Achampong had handed over a year or two after his coup, he would have remained a popular person. But he stayed too long. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, said Lord Acton. So when he stayed too long, and then there was a counter coup within his regime, that brought the Supreme Military Council into power, Achampong no longer had the original coup plotters who put him in power and who had a vision to change Ghana. They were sidelined, and the new Supreme Military Council became corrupt. They became very much interested in their own self-aggrandizement and money-making. And then also, one other temptation is when you have money and so on, you see a lot of people jumping into your circle of influence with the hope that they can get a lot out of you. And among these were young women and so on. So the whole country saw that military leaders and then civilians who were serving under Achampong and his people were not very serious. They were not interested in the development of the country. There was general concern. Out of that concern were the students who regularly demonstrated against the policies of Achampong. And then in the midst of all of that came this young lieutenant, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, who tried to stage a coup and was not successful. And in the trial, the bravery that he exhibited, that all his men should be left alone, he was responsible. And they gave him the chance to give reasons why he wanted to seize power. He wanted to seize power. And it became a propaganda tool for Rawlings and his clique. And therefore, that made Achampong and his group much more very unpopular, And you remember, Rawlings came at a time when even there was a palace school where General Akufo removed 𝗱𝗃 and then took all his medals away. He was no longer called a general. They had disrobed him, and he was just Mr. 𝗱𝗃, who was pushed to his village in self-exile. So under the rule of General Akufo, Rawlings and others did a number of him, and therefore the June 4th coup became successful, and today is history. In fact, I must say that what is happening today, as we see it, is worse than what we experienced under the Supreme Military Council that brought Rawlings into office. And of course, it was nothing. What is happening is nothing compared to the unnecessary coup of 1981, which brought Rawlings back to power the second time. There's a saying that if you are a good student leader, you have to be a Marxist. You have to be influenced by the doctrine of Karl Marx and Leninism, if you are a good student. Because, when you talk about the masses, the struggling class, and that the masses are suffering because the elites have controlled all the wealth, and the only reason why the masses are suffering is because the elite or the bourgeoisie do not want to share their wealth with them. That is very enticing. But when you grow up, you come to realize that Marxism is one thing, and the reality of life is another. You don't have to be a Marxist to be a good leader. All you have to be is a person with a heart, to think a little bit more about those who are less privileged than you. That if you are riding in a car and some people cannot even afford shoes to wear, then you have to make it better that even when they are walking without shoes, that the road is good enough for them to walk without bottles pricking them, or thorns pricking them, or snakes running around and killing them. What we see today is that we have a political leadership that is very, very insensitive. You cannot increase the salary of members of parliament and ministers when you have teachers who are poorly paid, when you have people who work with Zoom Lion, and for several months they will not be paid. They work for 6 months, they are not paid, and they are paid probably less than 2,200 cedis a month. And when they come to pay them, they pay them only for about 2 or 3 months, and the rest are not being paid. I'm talking about the experience that I see with women from my family who work for Zoom Lion in 𝗲𝗲𝗏, and they are not paid. No, these are the kind of things that lead to revolutions in countries. You don't have to be a Sankara, you don't have to be a Muqtala, you don't have to be a Muammar Gaddafi. All you have to be is a human being with feelings that people are suffering. And when the teacher teaches for 40 years and he goes on retirement, and his retirement benefits are less than $100,000 cedis, that is a problem. That parliament stays in office for 4 years, and at the end of 4 years, they call it end of service benefits, and they are paying in hundreds of thousands of cedis as end of service benefits. And these same people are going to run again and to be brought back to parliament to serve for another 4 years. At the end of 4 years, they have end of service benefits. That is nonsense.